Did you guys just see that? Did you guys just see that? Welcome to an emergency fight week on 5, brought to you by the 5 Reasons Sports Network. I'm Johnathan, a.k.a. 3-Piece Combo. I'm joined by the fight genius, Mr. Alfredo Arteaga. Dude, what was your reaction from what just happened?
Well, she got out there, by the skin of her ass, really. Okay, like she just barely got out of this fight. I didn't like a lot of the things that I saw from her. I thought she reverted back to her boxing, and that's not good in MMA. In boxing, you can find angles with your feet. Like, you can't see me now, but I'm exhibiting like great, like footwork right now. Like, I'm moving, like I'm showing you angles. You know what I mean? In MMA, you got to look at levels, right? You're up against a jiu-jitsu practitioner. She or he drops a level. You got to start moving side to side. You got to almost get out if you're not at her level. Elkin was a brown belt, and she exhibited some chops that, almost got her the win. But Claressa Shields seemed to have a lot of trouble with it, and I don't know. It kind of reminded me of, and I understand Brock Lesnar when he made his debut. And I understand that he had a fight before he fought Frank Mir, but I don't know who the hell Min-Soo Kim is. But when he fought Frank Mir, we kind of saw Brock Lesnar kind of maul Mir for an entire round until he got caught with what was it, a knee bar or an ankle bar?
Yeah, some leg lock.
Yeah, but it actually, by that fight, remember, it looked like, Frank Mir is a guy who was known, who was a contender for a long time. And that fight looked like it was a bear attacking somebody on a picnic in California. You know what I mean? So this was a little bit different. Like, this shows that she has to go back to the drawing board, and she has to fix some of the things that happened to her in this fight, because, she can't revert back to her boxing because it's just not good enough in the octagon eventually, which is what she wants to do. Now, if she wants to do a special event or an attraction, yeah, I'm all for it. You want to do a boxing match against Amanda Nunes? I'm here for it. You want to do a special event in Bellator against Cyborg, and you're going to keep the ground out of it? I'm for it too. But as of right now, yeah, she has to go back to the drawing board. But, she got out of there with a win, and it was impressive what she did in the third round. So, more power to her. She moves on. I want to see her again, of course.
Yeah, I mean, what she was able to do, let's just talk about, overall, just kind of the story of the fight, right? She came out, and she had a little bit of distance, a little bit of trouble finding that distance. Initially, she was throwing punches at the air, just trying to see. Elkin was throwing that front kick, so she was keeping that distance as well, so managing that pretty well. But the beginning of the fight, it started pretty bad because she was actually able to get up from the first takedown. Mm-hmm. But after that first takedown, that's when she got in trouble. She actually got mounted. She didn't even get her guard initially. She never had guard this fight at all. It was straight to her opponents getting their hips above the knees of Claressa Shields, and she was getting mounted pretty much both rounds, right? But what I did like from it, right, she was able to minimize damage. Right, she was not taking punches, and of course you can't elbow in the PFL, so she wasn't getting elbowed, but she wasn't taking those heavy punches. She had good head movement on the ground. She was firing back. All those are just rabbit punches, really not going to mean much anyways, but she was firing back because she does have the power in her hands to at least ward off her opponents, to bother them and make them think about it a little bit. So first round, she came out. First, got to the ground, got mounted. Second round, same thing, and the second round was a little bit worse because she kind of dived into her. Right, she hit her a little bit, and then she dove over her, and she kind of tried to get into that good positioning, but she should have just stayed away from that grappling exchange. But she did talk about in one of her interviews how the difference between boxing and MMA is when you hurt somebody in boxing, you have that count, but in MMA, when you box or when you hurt somebody, you have to go for the kill. So she spoke about that in an interview, that she's going to have to change that instinct. So maybe that's just her learning how to, okay, I hurt a fighter. This is when I chase. Maybe next time she'll know not to chase when her fighter is not that hurt, right? You'll want to wait till an actual solid knockdown before you chase and get on top of somebody who's a better grappler than you. But then comes the third round. And the third round was very, very interesting, right? She came out, she landed a couple of punches, actually. I think this was the best she looked in the feet, was really in that third round. It looked like she had a lot of pent-up frustration. Actually, before we get to that, end of the second round was interesting, too, because she was able to get some punches from an odd angle that seemed to hurt Elkins. And that plays into the third round because Elkins was slow to get up from that. Going into the third round, she kind of was a little bit slower. You can tell she was just a little hurt, right? You don't feel that power. And maybe as a lightweight MMA or a female MMA lightweight, you're not going to feel that power. But somebody like Claressa Shields, it's a completely different ball game. Now, she's able to sprawl the first takedown of the third round, and she's actually able to get on top. And you see the whole time, although she's firing punches, she's being patient. And what I saw is that she was able to actually keep her hips out whilst firing those punches. There could have been times where she would have fired those punches and got her ass back on the ground and been on her back. No, not this time. She actually was able to keep her hips, finish with some ground and pound. And man, what an exciting finish, because I did not expect her to win this fight. After seeing the first two rounds go the way they went, I did not expect to see her win this fight. And the fact that she did blows my mind. It's crazy. I'm really happy for her because, you know, this is kind of what you want to see, is you want to see the person making that crossover to kind of get that win. And she came over here and she did it. And like you said, now she's a money attraction. You put her up against a striker and somebody who's not really going to take you down, she's probably going to get the win because, you know, although it's still raw, you can see the MMA skills starting to develop. You can see the sprawl. You can see a lot of times what I really loved what she did. She tried to control the head of Elkins. She would try to make sure her head is always above her opponent's head and doing little things. So working with Jackson Wink MMA, working over there with John Bone Jones, working with Holly Holmes, somebody who also made the crossover for boxing, it's going to be something that's going to benefit her greatly if she continues to move forward in MMA.
And what a matchup that would be if she got into it with Holly Holm, right? Like that would be a great matchup. Like when she was dominating boxing, like that was somebody that they kept saying, you know, like maybe she comes right back and maybe you have a Holly Holm Claressa Shields match. But yeah, what I saw from her is that she did revert a little bit to her boxing, but her boxing is so good. If you watch her, she gets behind her punches, she steps with her punches, and she has the stiffest of jabs in all of combat sports, really. Like when she throws a jab, she throws it to hurt you. And if she can incorporate some of that, and she's going to learn from this, like she has to understand levels, because in boxing, you're watching feet, you're watching movement, which is side to side, right? In MMA, it's up, down, up, down, up, down. So it's a little bit different. So you could tell that she, in that first round, she was in the fight and she was getting behind her punches, but you could see that she was like reverting back to boxing, and she was like, okay, if she shows me this, I'm going to give her this angle and I'm going to shoot this right hand right down the pike, or I'm going to throw this hook, I'm going to throw this overhand right. She has to stop that. She has to get back into the gym, and she has to understand it's a different sport now. Like, you know, she understands that she's as good as anybody with her hands, and she thought that she could get back to her boxing in a pinch. And she has to understand that she has to kind of adjust her boxing for MMA, because now it's no longer side to side. Now it's up, down, up, down. So she's going to, and once she figures that out, and she can start moving her punches a little bit and maybe even stepping away from shoot attempts, you know, she's gonna be a problem, because her punches are stiff and you could see them. The hand speed is there. Okay. And she's a big girl because she's 5'8", you know, and she fought tonight at 155. But if she's gonna get fights at 145, you know, like I said, if she wants to do special attractions, I think she's ready for them now. If she wants to do special attractions. If she wants to do MMA, she's probably a couple of years away, you know, from fighting a legitimate MMA fight, probably in the UFC, maybe Bellator, who knows? Who knows who's going to vie for her services. But like I said, if she wants to do a special attraction, I'm ready for it. I'm ready for it.
Yeah, she has at least a legitimate base. I want to say what's up to Ronnie Pridgett Jr. checking us out on almost at 1 a.m. here on the East Coast. Appreciate you checking us out. And actually, there's 9 people on the stream right now. Everybody checking us out almost at 1 a.m. after the insane debut of Claressa Shields. Appreciate you guys checking us out this late. But let's talk about that next. Let's talk about what's next for her, because I think we have a little bit differing opinions on this. You're thinking she's just a special event. I'm thinking she's somebody that's 2 or 3 years from developing into somebody that could be a legitimate MMA fighter if she continues on this path, because she is already top of the line in boxing, right? She's the GWOAT. She's the best, the greatest woman of all time boxing. She doesn't need to sharpen those skills as much or develop those skills as much as she needs to just sharpen them. With MMA, now it's going to be sharpening or developing.
She needs
more
to adapt
skills.
them. I would say she needs to adapt them to MMA. You know, because I don't think we've ever seen this before. Like I tried to think of it, and I don't know anybody that's done this.
James Toney, they talked about it on the broadcast. He fought Randy.
Yeah, but James Toney was not only was he done in boxing, but he looked like he was done in MMA when he stepped in against Randy Couture. So that's the only guy who's done it, and you know, it wasn't a serious. Let's not call it a serious attempt.
Yeah, this is the first time we've seen an actual serious attempt, and let's first of all give a big shout out to Claressa Shields, because she has more balls than any of the male boxers that are refusing to step over here. And of course, the money is a little bit better over in the male boxing side, but she has bigger balls than any of those other fighters to come over here in the UFC. And I guarantee you, if those other fighters, you know, male boxers would have came over and got mounted in the first round, they'd have got finished. Claressa Shields did not get finished, and she has to get props to no end to going to that against a 10th planet brown belt for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. 10th planet. That's one of the best. I'm pretty sure they trained with Brian Ortega, if I'm right. They worked with him before, and you know, he's a submission monster, right? So she's a legitimate submission threat, and she almost had an arm bar. And you saw Claressa, as soon as that arm started to extend, she yanked it out of there. And that I thought her arm was done. I was like, that's it. That's going to be the end of her. And we don't know what's going to happen to boxing after that if she, you know, ends up getting her arm in an arm bar. But she was able to get it out. So let's talk about what's next for her, because I think this is a very, like I said, we have differing views on this. You think she's a special attraction. I think she could be a legitimate contender down the line. Obviously, facing somebody right now, she can't face the top ranked, right? I think she should stay in PFL, right? Face maybe this, you know, I'm not sure who else they have in that lightweight division. Obviously not Kayla Harrison yet, but she needs to face some lower level fighters right now. Build that wrestling base. Right now, she faced somebody with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. You want to face maybe somebody with kickboxing right now. How is she going to deal with those kicks? Right? And then maybe you want to face her against a pure wrestler, somebody who's just going to focus on taking her down, right? Then you have her maybe against a Muay Thai. How does she work against the clinch? This is how you're going to build her up. This is how you're going to make her become a better fighter, because you've had her work with submissions. You have her working with kickboxing, Muay Thai, right? All these different disciplines that are involved in MMA. If you can develop her this way, you can groom her to be a star. And that's what she wants to be, right? If you watch almost any interview with her, it's not just because, you know, she's doing it to make a name for herself, which is, of course, she wants to do that because she says she's, the only two-time undisputed, across two weight classes at the same time champ, male or female. Correct me if I'm wrong with that statistic, but only person to ever do that. And for her to still come over to the MMA side, right, after doing so much in boxing, she could have stayed there. She could have been the greatest of all time. She's 26 years old, one of the
26,
right? So she could have stayed there, dominated for another 10 years, 15 years, and still would have, done okay. But she wants to do this because she wants to be legitimately the greatest woman of all time when it comes to combat sports. And I think there's a path for her to get there. How do you feel about that?
Oh, absolutely. She has plenty of time. And like you said, as far as if she fights a Muay Thai practitioner, I don't worry about her at all. Because I think that she's built to be great in the clinch, because she is good in the clinch. She knows how to tuck her chin, and she knows how to bring punches out of the clinch. So I don't think that's her problem. Her problem is going to be going forward, avoiding getting taken down, because she's going to be fighting a lot of 3-round fights. She can't feel her way and then just, pick away at the bones of what she lays in front of her. You know what I mean? Because most of her boxing matches are essentially the same. She feels her opponent out, and then her opponent just deteriorates in front of her under a bevy of punches and combinations that she puts together from a bunch of different angles. She doesn't have the time for that. So she's going to have to avoid being taken down. So she's going to have to go back to the drawing board. And with time, because she has the time. She's only 26 years old. She has the time to get that together. And yeah, arrows all the way up. She just has to. I think, I hated, to be honest with you, I hated the matchmaking for her, because why are you going to get her a jiu-jitsu practitioner in her first fight? fighting and combat sports are a lot about
The
confidence,
matchups, confidence and matchups.
confidence and matchups. You know, it's so, you know, I think it's a great thing for her actually that she got out of there with a win. You know what I mean? So, you know, for that alone, arrow all the way up. But I think some matchmaking is what she needs. Get her in with some, you know, get some wins under her belt. She needs to learn how to feel an octagon, a cage, you know, and she needs to learn how to feel how to put punches together in MMA as opposed to boxing.
Yeah, and I think she'll get there. You know, like you said, it's going to take some time, but I think she absolutely has the opportunity to get there. Let's talk a little bit about matchmaking on this. You got to feel for Brittany Elkin, man. She just, you know, her last two fights, or not last two fights, but the two fights that she had to take, she fought against Kayla Harrison, if I'm right, when she was making her debut, and then now she fought Claressa Shields, now making her crossover debut, right? Two athletes making their crossover debut, having to beat up on this poor woman. Like, I feel bad for her, man. Like, but let's get into her future a little bit more. I just want to say, like, do you think she stays in PFL, or do you think another company comes in and tries to take her for like you said, like one of these special kind of events?
Well, somebody's going to have dollar signs in their eyes, okay, and it's going to be
especially
up to
after tonight.
Okay, and it's going to be up to Claressa Shields. It's going to be up to Claressa Shields to say no to somebody, because I think somebody will have money that she probably is going to have a hard time saying no to. Like, if you're Bellator and you're watching this and you're thinking, you know what, you know, Cyborg, Claressa Shields special event, you know, does that bring money? I think so. Okay.
Especially brand new Showtime deal. You know, they're breaking in that Showtime deal right now. They got Mauro Ronaldo over there. They got a great commentary crew.
Yeah, and then you have Dana White, who's already said that Amanda Nunes has the chops and the clout to ask for a boxing match if she wants one. You know, so maybe a 2-fight deal with Amanda Nunes, 1 fight in the boxing ring, 1 fight in the octagon. You know, so I don't know. Somebody's going to have dollar signs in their eyes. They're going to present it to her, and it's going to be up to her to say no. You know, I'm serious about this. I'm serious about getting a world championship in this sport, and see you in 2 or 3 years as I get better. Like, that's probably where she's probably where her head should be at, and where I think it is at. Because I don't think that she's out there for the quick buck. You know, she's 26, and
right.
You heard her after the fight. She's talking about I want to be a world champion in this. So if she wants to be a world champion, you know, it's all in front of her. She's only 26. She has plenty of time.
And I want to get this comment real quick. Trevian Vision Productions, appreciate you joining us this late, man. Claressa is really impressive. She got to stop taking now, but man, she's a quick adapter. I agree, man. The way she was able to adjust, the way she was able to sprawl, you know, use her hips, get good head motion on her opponent. I think that was just great how she turned it around in that third quarter. I was watching a little bit too much basketball that third round of the fight. But let's get into a couple of the other fights, because there was actually a lot of really good fights on this one. But I want to just talk briefly about this next fight that we had. I'm trying to see which one was the next one. What was co-main event? Was it the Lutterbach versus Clay Collard, which was actually a pretty good fight. I think it ended in split decision, if I'm correct. I think one went to Lutterbach, 2 went to Collard. Fun fight overall. You know, first round, Lutterbach came out. He started off with a quick first punch just to get it out. A nice quick right hand.
And Clay Collard has the most subtle nickname in the history of combat sports. He calls himself Cassius Clay Collard. Like, you can't do that, man.
It's like, right? It's like,
you have to be too slick of a boxer to do that.
It was, and his boxing was, you know, okay tonight. You know, he definitely had some great moments, but defensively, he's not slipping punches like he should be as far as a boxer goes. But
I will say this: a friend of mine told me way before PFL even started, and he told me this guy's name, and I'm like, who? Like, I don't understand who you're talking to me about. But Brendan Loughnane, the guy who won the first fight, who now leads the featherweights, I believe, right? I don't know anything about him. All I know is that he's 2-0. I saw him win tonight. I thought he looked extremely impressive. But a friend of mine told me before this whole thing started, that guy's a lock to win the featherweight division in the PFL. Do you know anything about Brendan Loughnane? Because
I did not. I did not coming into this fight, but what a fight, dude! What a fight, man! That was one of the better fights of the night, as far as that one goes. You want to break that one down a little bit?
Oh, I thought he looked spectacular. He gets behind his punches. He can move. He's hard to take down, and everything he throws is painful. Like you could see it on his opponent's face at the end of that fight. So yeah, he's 2-0. He already clinched a playoff spot. So it's going to be interesting going forward. It's an interesting format, right?
Oh,
I've always loved way back in the Pride days when they had their Grand Prix and they had those tournaments. I always love tournament-style MMA, and I think that they figured out a way to do it and do it safely with this. Because I don't know if we're ever going to see somebody fight 3 times in one night ever again, but unless it's in Japan or something.
Yeah. I think there's actually a fight. I could be wrong, but there might be a fight coming up where a Muay Thai guy is fighting 3 fights in one night. I think what's his name? Chael Sonnen, and he did a video on it. There's one guy fighting 3 guys in one night. So we'll see.
I guess, but that's not something that we're probably going to see for like ever. In the United States, but if this is like the future, then absolutely. Like I love this tournament style. I love what they're doing with this.
The playoff implications make this so much more fun.
Yeah,
so much more fun because you have these guys actually having to come out for finishes, right? And if anybody doesn't know how the scoring works, you get 2 fights, right? That's your season. You get 2 fights. There's 10 fighters for each division. For each of those fights, you can get 3 points for a win. And you can get 1 point extra for a 3rd round finish, 2 points extra for a 2nd round finish, 3 points extra for a 1st round finish. So you can get up to 6 points for 1 fight. And if your opponent misses a weight, you get extra 3 points as well, right? So at the end of 2 fights, you want to be the person that has the most points. Max obviously would be 12, which would be 2 first round finishes. But right now, I'm going to see if I can pull up some of the standings. But that featherweight fight between Brendan Loughnane and Tyler Diamond, with all the fights coming up this weekend, we have Bellator tomorrow, UFC Friday, or Saturday, UFC Saturday. We have one championship. We have Ryzen. We have Invictus tomorrow as well. So many fights, but this Loughnane versus Diamond fight was absolutely crazy, right? Really calculated first round. Diamond came in, he was swinging really hard in that first round. He was swinging heavy, and it seemed to wear him down a little bit more, right? Loughnane came in. He started to open up more as the fight was going on. And I loved how they actually used Verdict MMA to have the fan voting. So you can see the fan vote and all that kind of stuff as well on all those scales. 2nd round comes around. Brendan Loughnane drops Tyler Diamond, and he grounds and pounds him for almost 2 minutes straight. And I'm thinking they're going to call this fight. For 2 minutes straight, but what he's doing, he's grabbing a single leg. So he's showing offensive motion. He's showing the referee that he's not just defenseless, that he's trying to do something. So he's out there getting damaged over and over again. Gets a little up kick at the end of the 3rd round, Tyler Diamond does. But 3rd round again, or 2nd round, 3rd round again, he just absolutely brutally, Brendan Loughnane just knees him in the face a couple of times, gets some really good right hands. They were saying in the commentary booth that the mullet that Tyler Diamond had was actually a helmet. That's why he was able to not be knocked out. So, yeah, man, good fight overall. But
and they also revealed a new MMA stat. I never understood it because they never explained it. But it's 0 to 100, and the higher the better, and that's what you get for the round. But I don't understand how they arrive at any of those numbers. So that's something that's, it's good to learn, down the line to see how they get to those numbers.
So what it is actually they use the smart cage, right? So the cage has like different cameras and shit on it, right? So they'll calculate how many punches, how many kicks, how much grappling, and how much takedowns you get. And out of 100, with 100 being a finish, right, you can score on that round. So if you get maybe like a 10-8 style round where you're really dominating, you'll get 98. A closer round, you'll probably see like 60 to 40, right? Something like that. But that's what you'll see as far as the scoring goes. It was a little bit confusing, but they say they use an algorithm. So it's not a single person. It's just how the statistics line up. Like on the bottom of the thing, how you have the miles per hour, the arm strikes, leg strikes, like your punches and your kicks, and then you have.
And is that available to the judges, or that's
No.
just for us? Okay,
That's just for us. Yeah, judges can't see that.
Yeah, because part of the problem in judging is that there are no 10-8 rounds. Like, nobody has the balls to go out there and say, you know what, this round was 10-8. Fighter A was absolutely ineffective in this round and actually did nothing but get beat on for the 5 minutes. Let's give him a 10-8.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
if the person doesn't get dropped or, even really close to a sub, like you said, they won't give them a 10-8. But some other judges, now that they're trying to be more usage of the 10-8s, some judges will give 10-8s too easily as well. So now it's a problem because they're changing the definition of the 10-8. So I know in boxing, a knockdown is an automatic 10-8. In MMA, it's not, right? Because you can get knocked down. But go ahead.
Yeah, no, and another thing, like, if you're confused by a round, like a bunch of times, it's happened to me in boxing. Like, I try to score a fight, and I watch it, and I'm like, I'm completely confused. Instead of giving somebody a 10-9 because you kind of liked one combination you saw in the first minute, what's wrong with 9-9, Like, that's another thing. There needs to be a little bit more nuance in judging, I believe, in both sports, boxing and MMA.
Yeah, because one of the judges on this fight scored this fight a 10-8, or I'm sorry, a draw, right? Pretty crazy saying, I'm sorry guys, but Shields win. She did win, right? She got taken down, dominated in the first 2 rounds, able to not get taken out in the 3rd round, end up on top, and actually get some ground and pound win. So crazy win for Claressa Shields. But back to this fight over here, somebody actually scored this a draw, and I don't see how in any manner this can be a draw. Round 1 you can give to Tyler Diamond because of his aggressiveness. He had, she was able to at least hold on to him, get a little bit of control. If you want to give him any round, there's a 29-28. For that to be a 28-28 fight and end up a draw, I don't know how that makes any sense. So that as confusing to you as it was to me.
Yeah, when I heard the scores, I'm like, how did he get to 28-28?
I was trying to add up my head. It made no sense. I could not add it because if you have 2 10-9s or one each, that's a 19-19 plus 10, that's 29-29.
Yeah. And if you lost all 3 rounds 10-9, that's 27. So how do you get to 28? That means that he had to have given, Brendan Loughnane a 9-9 maybe in one of those rounds, or he called it 10-10. I don't understand. I don't understand how he got to that number of 28-28.
Yeah, it made absolutely no sense to me. For the fight that we saw, the guy got dropped in 2 rounds, right? For me, that would have been 2 10-8s. Because if a guy gets dropped on, especially that second round should have absolutely been a 10-8 because he was getting ground and pounded for about 2.5 minutes. Like, I was taking notes on this shit, and it was like 2.5 minutes he was getting ground and pound. That's a 10-8.
And in boxing, it's widely accepted. You win a round and you drop your opponent, it's 10-8 automatically. Like, there's no way you're going to get a 10-9. It's a 10-8 round. If you win the round and you drop your opponent, it's a 10-8. Now, if you just get beat on for all 3 minutes in a boxing match in, let's say, round 3, and then you just manage to land a right hook that drops your opponent, you might be able to salvage a 9-9. But because you're supposed to get a point for the knockdown no matter what.
Right.
But, 10-9 and you knock down an opponent and you have the round 1, yeah, that should be a 10-8 round. So I don't know what the judges were watching in that round.
It would have to
in that fight.
Yeah, it would have to be. I'm trying to think it out. It would have to be 10-8 for one person, 10-8 for one other person. That's 18-18, and then a 10-10. So they would score that at 10-10 for the first round. Like, I still don't. That makes no sense. I don't know how that fight was a draw, but honestly, with all the fights coming up this weekend, this Brendan Loughnane versus Tyler Diamond fight was absolutely amazing, and he had everything you wanted in it. Tyler Diamond taking the fight on short notice, coming in, getting kneed in the face, punching in the face. He could have quit. He could have quit easily early in the second round, and he ended up making it to the scorecards. Hey, all credits to him, man, because he showed some heart. But we even started the card with were you able to watch the beginning, the early prelims?
No, I just saw I started with the Loughnane fight.
Gotcha. So you saw the Bubba Jenkins versus Moffett fight. What was your thoughts on that one?
It was interesting. Like, I thought Bubba Jenkins actually won the fight clean, but I was expecting more fireworks from him. Maybe I bought into, him talking into the microphone because I don't know much about these fighters.
Right.
But he seemed pretty sure of himself that he was just going to run through his opponent. But yeah, I agree with the decision. He won that fight. It wasn't spectacular. It's nothing to get too excited about. But he moved on, and getting the W it's what's important, especially in this format.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think he was able to secure himself a spot in the playoff picture. Still going to have to see moving forward how that playoff picture is going to work. But let's talk about the other fight. A little bit more. I want to talk about that one, the Clay Collard versus Lutterbach card fight. There was one part of that fight that was really interesting to me was when he was landing the body kicks while he was on the ground. I don't think I've ever seen somebody land a body kick standing from on the ground.
I was a bit confused by it because when I saw him like rear back and land it, I was like, wait a minute, is he gonna get disqualified for this? And then I saw that the referee was just fine with it. And I'm like, I don't remember the last time I saw something like this. And he also did something interesting. Guy had his hand on the ground and he went to stomp on his hand.
I don't think I've seen that before.
I've never seen that before. Like I've seen people stomp on, Usman did it to Masvidal for 5 rounds. So, it's a common occurrence in the UFC and in MMA. But stomp on somebody's hand, okay, that's something new. All right? Color me impressed. Maybe has anybody even thought about, if somebody's, inviting a guard and they're on their back, has anybody thought about trying to stomp on somebody's ankles or something? You know what I mean?
I think that's something new, right? We have to, just start doing that. Stomping on ankles, stomping on fingers, stomping on ears. I mean, I guess not ears because that's part of the head, but, the body kicks were effective, man. I don't think I've seen anybody use the body kicks from a standing position to somebody who's on the ground. And I want to actually take a look at some of these standings right here. So let's start off with the featherweight division. Brendan Loughnane fought tonight. He's now 2-0, and he's in first place with 9 points. I do believe with that he clinched a position. Yep, he clinched actually. Yeah, he clinched the playoffs right here. So these guys are clinched right now. We saw Bubba Jenkins fight tonight. We saw Chris Wade fight tonight as well. Chris Wade came out, and I'm trying to remember the guy that he fought. It was against Arman Asparov, right? Oh, this was a great fight as well. Arman Asparov came out, hurt Wade, second round, hurts him again, right? About to put him out. He's about to go out. And then he comes back, and Asparov just dips. This is the first fight of the night. Just dips slightly into a kick that was intended for the body. It ended up being a knee to the head. He gets punched twice more and goes first down into ground. First career knockout of Chris Wade. One of the greatest last names of all time. So I guess that's what you do when you're in PFL. But
I got a question since you've been watching this more than I have. Anthony Pettis is in this. I know he lost. What happened to him in his fight?
He crumbled like he's been crumbling recently, man. He fought against Clay Collard, the guy that fought tonight. And Collard came back after boxing for a few years, right? He's been boxing for a little bit. And he came back, and his striking was just better than Pettis's. Pettis actually hurt him. He caught, I think, a kick to the head or a knee to the head or both, maybe, honestly. But, yeah, he was out. He was actually supposed to fight tonight, but he ended up being sick. He's going to fight next week or the next PFL event coming up.
Right. I love the format. The format's just absolutely great.
It's awesome, man, because you're fighting for something and you're fighting for points. I'm trying to see here we go, light heavy or lightweight division. Clay Collard fought tonight. He has 9 points. Picked up a first round victory his last time out. I think so he picked up 6. Picked up 3 more tonight because he got a decision victory. And then if you can see right down here, we actually have Anthony Pettis coming back. And fun fact about Olivier and Aubin Mercier, he actually sparred with our boy Ariel.
Really?
Yeah. So he actually trained with him before, sparring partners.
What's interesting about the PFL is that there is no matchmaking in this. Even, correct me if I'm wrong, once they make the playoffs and you have your top 4, it's going to be 1 versus 4, 2 versus 3, right?
Correct.
So there is no matchmaking at all in this. So it's not even like the Ultimate Fighter House where, Ortega could be pretty smart against Volkanovski and, find a matchup to try to ruin one of Volkanovski's fighters. So, there is no matchmaking involved in this. So it makes it even more exciting and more interesting. I think.
Yeah, because the way they do it is they match up people who have playoff implications versus not, right? Because they try to do it in a way to make the fights have meaning, right? Because these two guys are fighting, okay, the winner is going to make the playoff, loser gets eliminated, like shit like that, right? Because now maybe one guy has a loss and he has to go up against a guy that has a win because now he has to either secure that playoff spot or this guy gets eliminated, or maybe he's now fighting for that playoff spot because he picks up a first-round victory, gets those 6 points, and clinches the 4 seed, right? So you got to think about it like that. But crazy night overall. We saw some good wins.
Let me ask you a question. What's more impressive, winning the PFL or winning the Ultimate Fighter House?
More impressive, I would say probably the Ultimate Fighter House, because I think there's a little more competition there, right? I think the competition is a little bit stiffer, but I think with PFL, man, what they're doing over there, it's, 8 divisions, 10 fighter per division. There's going to be a tournament for every one of the division in one night. I think it's going to be a one-night special where you have $8 million tournaments going on at the same time. And the winner of these tournaments gets $1 million, which is absolutely nuts. And I think it's great because now it's creating a prize fighting situation where they're fighting for something more than just the belt, right? They're getting they're getting the money too, because that's a lot of these fighters are not making a lot of money. So for them to get the win or for them to get that money, it was crazy. It's awesome. Any more thoughts on PFL overall as a production?
Nah, I think the production is great. I love that Lillian Garcia is back.
Yes, dude, brings back my childhood WWE memories all day long.
And I love that Randy Couture is in the booth with Kenny Florian. Kenny Florian, in my opinion, is one of the best analysts in all of MMA, all of combat sports, in my opinion. And I love that he's there. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more. I would have loved to see them go, cage side and have them do a stand up back and forth after the fights. But I understand they have to keep it moving because they have 2 hours to get the whole show in. So they don't have 10 minutes to waste. Although in my opinion, it wouldn't be a waste to have Randy Couture and Kenny Florian go back and forth and analyze a fight after we just saw it. So yeah, I love everything about it. Their production is absolutely spot on.
Yeah, I mean, starting off with Wiz Khalifa, first of all, for me, that's like a top 5 artist. I love Wiz Khalifa, man. Wayne's one of the best, right? And then you have who is the guy? I think it was Bubba Jenkins doing the Ray Lewis dance, and Ray Lewis is actually one of the members of the committee board for PFL. So he did the Ray Lewis dance. That was a lot of fun. Like you said, Lillian Garcia, man, I can just hear her screaming like Dave Bautista, John Cena, Undertaker, right? Because she was the voice of SmackDown, like Friday night SmackDown. She was back there, repping it. And when I saw her, it was like nostalgia just popped right back in my head seeing Lillian Garcia. That was great. Like you said, man, seeing Randy Couture was crazy because I've been watching UFCs chronologically, and I'm about at 70 or 80 right now. But the last I saw Randy Couture was 2005 or 2006. So this is the first time I've seen him since 2006 because I've been watching these fights. Man, he looks aged. He definitely looks more aged. But great knowledge, great broadcast team overall. Like you said, Kenny Florian, great mind of the sport. His podcast with John Anik is fire as well. So just absolutely great production overall. I think PFL has something special, man. I think what they're bringing is different. I think what they're bringing is something that's fresh, something that's a little bit new. It brings a seasoned perspective to the MMA world, right? Because there's something to look forward to. Now there's kind of, okay, now this is what's going to happen. You don't kind of have to, these guys fought. Now we have to wait on matchmaking. We know what's coming up. We know where these guys are in the playoff picture. We know who's in the hunt. We know who has to get a first round finish to get, secure that playoff spot. So lots of fun things.
And the price is good. So you never know, who's coming down to actually try to enter this for next season. So yeah, it's, arrow all the way up for PFL. I was thoroughly impressed and entertained, and I can't wait to watch the next one.
Yeah, man, it's going to be fun. I'm super excited for the next one as well. I think PFL is growing great. Already on ESPN2, MMA overall is growing super, super big. Like I said, I think there's 5 events this weekend, if I have it right. I think I have a schedule right in front of me. Cool. So today was PFL. Tomorrow we have Bellator 260, which will be on Showtime. I might do a post show depending on how I'm feeling after that, right? Saturday we have the Shakur Stevenson fight, the boxing fight. You want to talk about that one?
Shakur Stevenson is going to be fighting Saturday night. His opponent is, I'm not sure who he is, his opponent, but he's a guy who has some wins under his belt. He's a legitimate opponent, but we kind of understand what Shakur Stevenson is doing right now. He's trying to clean up all his mandatories. And then after this, we probably will see the first big fight between 130 to 140 pounds. And it probably will be Shakur Stevenson against Oscar Valdez, which will be a great fight. And that one, you know, the result is absolutely in doubt in that case, I think.
That's going to be a fun one. Is Teofimo fighting next weekend? Is that next weekend?
Teofimo is fighting next weekend. He's fighting at the Lone Depot Park. He's fighting where the Marlins play baseball. So I want to see how many people they're going to put in there. He says it's going to be a sellout. He's fighting George Kambosos. George Kambosos is a legit contender, but Teofimo is Teofimo Lopez. So he should come out on top, but it's not going to be easy for him. That's going to be a lot of fun next week.
I might make that.
And it's a thriller, and it's a thriller card. So Meek Mill is going to be performing. They're gonna have some other fights on the card, and you know it's always interesting. It's always interesting to see what they're going to do, but it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's going to be a fun one as well. Of course, this Saturday we do.
And they also did sorry to interrupt you, but they did like I wouldn't call it a face-off, but they were on with Brendan Tobin locally, and Teofimo Lopez. I don't know if you saw that, but Teofimo Lopez and George Kambosos. Teofimo Lopez says, "You know, you should be thanking me. There's only one reason you're getting $2 million for this fight, and it's because it's me." You know, which is an interesting thing to say to your opponent. You know what I mean? But Teofimo is completely bought into who he is, and you know, it's not bullshit. Like, you know, he's probably the best there is at his weight class right now.
And it's crazy because he's so
and he gets to
young.
prove it. Yeah, he gets to prove it next week.
This is his first defense, correct?
First title defense since beating Lomachenko.
Which is, they always say your first defense is when you truly become a champion. But you know, beating Lomachenko is no slouch itself, right? So, man, that's gonna be a fun one. You know, of course, this Saturday we got UFC 264, 265, 260 something, 260 something. Israel Adesanya versus Marvin Vettori 2. Man, the press conference was absolutely nuts. If you didn't get to watch that, go watch that. It's just funny as shit. Marvin Vettori told Adesanya that he has a clit on his forehead, which is funny as shit. You know, they just keep going back and forth. Great. I
gotta watch their first fight. I gotta watch their first fight because I don't remember it. But I gotta watch their first fight because, as I can see right here, it was a split decision, so that's interesting. And it was on the Poirier Gaethje card, so you know I gotta watch that. I gotta watch that first thing in the morning. You know, it's gonna be interesting to see. You know, he's coming back to his domain. It's a stiff challenge. You know, if he could dust off Vettori, you know, then Israel Adesanya is everything he says he is, you know?
Yeah, I mean, you got to start putting him in that middleweight GOAT discussion there, right? You got to start inching him up to Anderson Silva with these middleweight defenses. Of course, he was unsuccessful going up to 205, but these middleweight defenses are no slouch, man. Fighting Gastelum to win the belt, beating Robert Whittaker the way he did, putting out, you know, obviously beating Romero the way he did, just kind of whatever, but destroying Paulo Costa, you know, and now going against Marvin Vettori again, right? When Rob Whittaker,
it's a who's who. Like if you want to look at, you know, who he went through since beating Marvin Vettori, it was Brad Tavares, Derek Brunson, Anderson Silva, Gastelum, Robert Whittaker, Yoel Romero, Paulo Costa, and then he moved up to light heavyweight, and we saw what happened. So yeah, his hit list. I don't know. Does anybody have anything better than that? I don't think so. Like that streak of wins, which reached 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I don't think anybody in the sport has, well, except Khabib. But other than Khabib,
you probably throw Dustin Poirier in that conversation, losing to Khabib, but outside of Khabib, you know, he beat Gaethje, beat Hooker, right? Beat Conor, beat Eddie Alvarez, right? Yeah, that's the last 4 off the top of my head I can remember. But that's a pretty murderous row itself, you know. So that's a fun one. Actually, another
the interesting one is that we get to witness the death of Nate Diaz because I hate his matchup. Like, why did they give him Leon Edwards? Like, that's just a bad matchup. We talk about matchmaking all the time, this is when you make matchmaking to just get rid of somebody. Like this is a bad matchup for Nate Diaz. If he proves me wrong and he could summon the magic, which he has, because his jiu-jitsu is as good as anybody's, but he forgot to use it. Like, it's been going on 5 years since he last used it, right? But if he could bring the magic again and prove me wrong, then I guess that's the, we could have a magical moment in the octagon once again. But man, that's a stiff challenge for Nate Diaz.
Yeah, fighting a guy with, I think, the third longest winning streak in the division history in Leon Edwards, coming off of 9 straight wins, right? Obviously, the Bilal Muhammad thing is what it was. But this is, like you said, stiff competition. Speaking about one of the best technical strikers in the division, somebody I believe is a southpaw, right? Great knees in the clinch, great elbows, throws those leg kicks and those body kicks, which Nate does not like to check. And for 5 rounds, I don't know how he's going to be able to take leg kicks for 5 rounds from that. So, like you said, I think he's going to really have to rely on that jiu-jitsu a little bit more, keep this match a lot more. And, of course, we're going to have a more full preview tomorrow on Walkouts and Knockouts with our boy Ariel. You'll be there as well. I'll be there. But, make this fight a little more off-tempo, right? Nate Diaz fights at his own pace. So if he's able to bring Leon into that pace, I think that's where he's going to have to make this fight win as far as the stand-up goes. But tough, stiff challenge for Nate Diaz coming up ahead. It's going to be a fun one, though, as well. We have that epic rematch in the co-main event. Davison Figueiredo taking on Mexican Pride, Brandon Moreno. Man, if you listen to the press conference today, the pop that Brandon Moreno got from that crowd was nuts, man. It's obviously it's not the level of Canelo, but as far as a Mexican star being built in the UFC, Brandon Moreno is that guy. Brandon Moreno is that guy, and everybody loves him. I like Davison Figueiredo, but he's not the fan favorite in this fight, and it's going to be a fun one having these rematches.
It is what it is, man. That's why we keep bringing up, Mexico and Mexican fighters and Mexican crowds in Las Vegas and Los Angeles, because they are some of the best combat sports fans anywhere. They travel, they back their fighters, and you're going to see them. You're going to see them out there Saturday night. Like, you're going to have, I would say Moreno will be the crowd favorite.
Oh, 100%. 100%. I think it's going to be as well, especially after tonight. Figueiredo was getting booed. Moreno was getting cheered. Big cheers, right? Man, if he wins that belt, is he the first Mexican UFC champion in history? Maybe not. I'd have to check that one up for sure.
Well, technically, does Tito Ortiz even count?
I mean, he's from Huntington Beach, California, though. But I guess you can see.
No, Cain Velasquez. Cain Velasquez was heavyweight champion. So
fair. Yeah. So
I don't know if there's anybody else. Is there anybody else?
Yeah, I think that would have to be, at least as far as big name goes. Cain Velasquez.
I don't even know if the Diaz brothers are Mexican. Like, are they Mexican?
I wouldn't be able to tell you with thing, but Diego Sanchez, Nate Diaz. It says Nate Diaz has Mexican heritage. So
okay, so he counts. Although really counting, Cain Velasquez. That's it.
Right.
As far as I know.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
A guy that actually fights out of Mexico.
Because you have guys like Gilbert Melendez. You can say Dominic Cruz, but those guys are not full blood Mexicans, like you said, like Cain Velasquez was coming in. Man, though, and we have as well. Oh, we had a bunch of comments. Yo, we got Young Assassin coming in. Appreciate you coming in, man. Appreciate you coming in. Oh man, last 3 days he said he saw Paige Van Zandt, Greg Hardy, and today he saw George Masvidal. Dude, what do you have something in your pocket that I should be having, like walking around seeing these fighters? Where did you see
put
him?
Together a card, right?
Yeah, man. Right, exactly. You're Young Assassin. You're the new fight promoters. He said Kane. Oh, Henry Cejudo. That was another one as well.
There you go,
Henry Cejudo. And then, man, Young Assassin's coming in with the knowledge, man. I appreciate you so much. Thank you, dog. But coming in, Diaz half, and then 1.5 of their Mexican, are Mexican. So. And he says, yeah, he lives at ATT, which is probably American Top Team. I'm guessing he's training near ATT. So he's up in, what is it, the Coconut Bay one, the Orlando one? Because I'm actually pretty close to the Orlando one. But those ATT gyms are pretty crazy with the amount of fighters. I think Amanda Nunes trains at that gym as well.
Yeah, Amanda Nunes is at the Coconut Creek one down here. So if you want to watch her spar, you get to watch her spar.
Hey, I would be frightened. I'm scared as hell, Claressa. 5'8", 155 making a weight cut. I'm 5'8", 155, fat as hell. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what is this? When she's here, like, dang, bro, do you see the size of her legs, dude? She is,
Yes,
bro.
she's a great athlete, and she's
She's
only 26, man. So, there is time. Like, that's the great thing about it. Like, she has time. It's not like Lesnar when Lesnar made his debut, which we kind of knew, like, man, this is going to be a microwave career for Brock Lesnar when he came in. This is for the long haul. Like, she has time.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
there's really like no reason to go back to boxing.
No, the
Because
money's not there.
no, and her big opponents are in England right now, and I don't think any of those girls are going to come down. So, like, there's no use. There's no use for her to go back to boxing. This is where it's at.
Young Assassin saying, no, don't train with her. You feel like you're not worthy. Come on, bro. You're always worthy. You got to have that belief. Belief, conceive, achieve. Luke Rockhold. I don't know what year that was. Then he got his ass knocked out by Michael Bisping. but that being ahead, appreciate everybody who joined us, for the entire thing. We covered a lot on this card. There was a bunch of fun fights on this card. Covered the Claressa Shields thing. Young Assassin, appreciate you joining us as well. As our boys, PR Crazy, Trend Vision, Ronnie Pridgett joining us as well. We're going to have you covered for the UFC event tomorrow at 5:30 right here on the 5 Reasons YouTube channel for Walkouts and Knockouts, the UFC edition. Like I said, doubleheader over there with the 185 belt between Azrael Adesanya taking on Marvin Vettori. Then you have Davison Figueiredo taking on Brandon Moreno for that 125 belt. You got Nate Diaz on tomorrow's card. Damian Maia might be his last fight, taking on, remember the name, Bilal Muhammad. Potential number 1 contenders fight between Joanne Calderwood and Lauren Murphy, which is on the undercard, and a banger sleeper between Brad Riddell and Drew Dober. So absolutely fun card. We'll keep you covered on that tomorrow. Like I said, appreciate everybody for joining us in the comments. Alf, appreciate you joining me this late. I actually hit you up last minute about this, so thanks for joining us as well. Young Assassin, if you can shoot that picture over, share it on Twitter, and we'll give it a share with those pictures with the fighters. But appreciate you everybody joining. Like I said, appreciate you, Alf. I'm Johnathan, aka 3-Piece Combo, and I hope everybody has a good night.